You're listening to the winning literary show, Off the Shelf Books Talk Radio, live with host Denise Turney, author of the books Long Walk Up, Portia, Love Pour Over Me, Spiral, Love Has Many Faces, and Rosetta's Great Hope. Turn up your dial and get ready for a blast of feature author interviews, 411 on book festivals, writing conferences, and so much more. Ready? Let's go.
Good morning out there in Blog Talk Radio Land, Rainbow Soul, iTunes, the many ways that people tune in to Off the Shelf. This is our first Saturday in March, and it's coming in as if not roaring in. There's so much going on in the world with the coronavirus, and prayers for anybody dealing with that. But that is just like, can't hardly believe it's just taking over everything. But good Saturday morning to you. And before we introduce you to our awesome guests and introduce the show to those, it might be your first time tuning in to Off the Shelf, I want to leave this thought with you, and it's from Stephen Hawking. It's look up at the stars and not down at your feet. Try to make sense of what you see and wonder about what makes the universe exist. Be curious. And again, I want to welcome you to our Saturday, March the 7th, 2020 show. Thank you for joining us. I send a special thank you out to our loyal listeners who've been with us for 15 years. We have a wonderful, and I'm excited about today's show, a wonderful author on deck, and can't wait to introduce you to our guest this morning. But before I do, I want to ask you, how good of a mystery sleuth are you? You know, those of you who've been with us for 15 years, it's been a while since I've been asking you this question. Are you somebody who likes to figure things out before it's revealed? You might even, not only in a book, a movie, a play, but maybe in your own real life, you're the one who calls people, and the be curious point, you call people and you try to piece things together. Some people on jobs are like that. As soon as they hear something, they'll start emailing, calling people, trying to figure it out before it's announced. You're just one of those who like to get out and say, I knew before they said who done it. If that's you and you have that in you, I really encourage you to get a copy of Love Pour Over Me. And why? Because there is a murder mystery tucked in this story that I really would be shocked if a reader could figure out who did it and what happened before it's revealed at the end of the book. But even more, when you get Love Pour Over Me, if you value relationships, there's a complicated father-son relationship. And we know how our childhoods, they sort of like, we're clay, they sort of form us. Well, the way this complicated relationship, it impacts his relationship with a woman he meets at college, and she's actually a woman he's meant to be with. But this is not a smooth relationship because of what he has gone through. But you know what? He's got 4 friends. They are money in the bank. He has 4 friends who are there no matter what. And one of them goes on to make it in the NFL. They all go on to do well with their lives. But is one of them linked to the murder? If you value relationships, you love romance, but real-life romance, and you like to figure out who did it before it's revealed. And I'd be shocked if you knew before you got to the end. I encourage you to get a copy of Love Pour Over Me. It's an ebook or in print format. You can get a copy even now. And if you don't see it on the shelves, just ask for a copy of Love Pour Over Me by Denise Turney, and the clerk can get you a copy. So go out and get yourself a copy of Love Pour Over Me today. And now let us go and meet our very special off-the-shelf guest. And today's off-the-shelf guest is Keith Leon. Now, he is known as the book guy. Keith is the author of the books Walking with My Angels. We're definitely going to dig into that one today. Who Do You Think You Are? Discover the Purpose of Your Life. The World's Greatest Business Card. These are interesting titles. You Make a Difference. Make a Book, Move a Book, Book Sale, and the 7 Steps to Successful Relationships. Now, Keith's work has been covered by magazines and media outlets such as Inc. magazine, LA Weekly, the Huffington Post, Publish magazine, and Succeed magazine. And he has shared the stage with Jack Canfield, Bob Proctor, Neale Donald Walsch, Barbara Angelis, John Gray, Michael Beckwith, and Marianne Williamson. Of course, she ran for president, if I remember correctly, but she pulled out. And he's also a member of the Evolutionary Business Council. We are honored to have Keith Leon with us this morning, and we want to welcome him this morning to Off the Shelf. Welcome to Off the Shelf, Keith.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you here on the show this morning. The first few questions that I'm going to ask you, I ask every guest on the show. When I first started out, I just went right into the questions, and then listeners started saying to me they wanted to know a little bit about the guests before I started into the questions. So I asked every guest these first 4 or 5 questions. So to begin to kick it off, could you tell Off the Shelf listeners where you grew up and what life was like for you growing up?
Wow. Well, I grew up in Long Beach, California, and my parents divorced when I was 2, and I stayed with my mom, which she was a manic depressive in the bed mostly, which kind of left me to raise myself. You know, people, women in the church tried to pitch in. My grandmother, my sister all kind of tried to pitch in, but for the most part, I raised myself. And so I believe that's why my guardian angel came to me at such a young time in my life to kind of help raise me, if you will, because I was self-raising at that point. So yeah.
So you, where did you say your father? And it was he was.
They got divorced when I was 2. My parents. And then,
so he was
shortly after that.
Stay until he was.
Yeah, and then he moved to Virginia, and he was clear across the United States, so he was absent. That's a good word for it.
Do you Keith? Yeah. Do you? And can you give us your website URL as well? Because I always like to share that with our listeners.
Sure. Go to Leon Smith Publishing, LeonSmith Publishing. .com, yeah.
LeonSmithPublishing.com. I always like to give that out to our listeners. If you want to go and check that, I always like, because sometimes you might see something that our guests offer. You want to bookmark, you want to go back and get a service or something that they offer. It's LeonSmithPublishing.com, LeonSmithPublishing.com, LeonSmithPublishing.com. Now, when you were a kid, and thank you for sharing your story of where you grew up and what it was like for you, but as a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? What did you say, when I grow up, this is what I want to be?
That's the funny thing. When I was about 12, I created this plan that I wanted to be a musician, a rock star in my 20s and 30s, and then 40s I wanted to be a best-selling author and a speaker, and then in my 50s I wanted to be a filmmaker. So that was my plan. And 20s and 30s, I mean, I did play music all over the world. I didn't get as huge as I dreamed, but kind of in the spiritual group, I did get known within people that love spiritual music. So that was, I felt like mission accomplished there. And then I did write a book, many books in my 40s and now 50s, and the whole filmmaker thing is still yet to be revealed. I am planning on making a documentary based on my touring and speaking and this book that's out right now. That's really what I want to do for my first piece, is interview people about how angels have showed up in their lives and share my story and kind of chronicle my journey on the road and connecting with these incredible people. So that's the plan for 50s.
Who or what inspired you? You've written several books. Who or what inspired you to pursue writing? Where did the birth for your love for books come from?
Well, the first book that my wife and I wrote was called The 7 Steps to Successful Relationships, and I really talk about this in the book. I had used a specific plan to become the person that I needed to become to attract my perfect mate. And I did the work, and I created a list on what I would love to have in my perfect mate. And then I became that list myself. And then when I did that, I attracted my perfect mate, Mara. And when we first got together, we kind of told on ourselves about what we had done in the past that did not work in relationship. And one of the things that was the same was communication. We didn't really communicate well. And so we put and brought a focus and an awareness to creating clear and effective communication in our relationship. And that was like our number one core value, our most important thing. So we started putting emphasis on that, and we were communicating really well. And what happened was we would be out in public, and we would have something come up, and then we would like work through it and get to the other side, and a bunch of people came to us and said, like, what's that thing you do? What's that thing you do? And we were like, what thing? And they said, well, like in our house where he says something that I would have like thrown something at him, or like there would have been a major fight, and then you guys just say some words to each other, and then everything's fine. What is that? And so the next time, after hearing that a number of times, the next time my wife and I had an argument, she said, do you mind if I grab a piece of paper and write this down? And I mean, this is in the middle of an argument. I'm like, whatever, okay. So she grabbed the paper and she wrote down what we were saying in our communication, and really kept track of it. And what we realized we had created and were doing a kind of specific format in the way that we were communicating. And once we wrote it down, we were like, wow, this is good. No wonder it works. First of all, this is incredible. But we had kind of organically created it. And so it was that idea that and that format, which is now called the format, that we taught to our friends and family first, because they were the ones also asking about it. And we taught it to them, and they were using our format, and it was working for them. And so when it worked for them, then we said, well, maybe we should reach out to other people that aren't friends and family, see if it works for them. And those who used it, it worked for them. So eventually I'm sharing this with people, and they're just like, you should write a book about that. You should write a book about that. And so we did. We wrote a book, and that thing that we now call the format, which is a form of communication, is why that we were able to get John Gray, the number one selling relationship author of all time. He authored Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. He actually endorsed our relationship book on the front cover, saying that we had tips and tools that work, which was amazing to have the number one guy.
I was going to ask you which came first for you. I was going to ask you which came first for you, book writing or motivational speaking. And it sounds like just your wife's awareness that people saying, what are you doing and why is it working? Let's just put it down on paper so we can share what's working.
Yeah. Yeah, we had both.
Can you share one or two tips with our off-the-shelf listeners, what you found that did work in relationships, especially if you really are at two opposite ends of the spectrum?
Yeah. Well, one thing that we agreed on from the very beginning was no name calling, like period. No name calling, because you can truly never take anything back that you said. There's no form of apology. There's nothing that will erase anything that you ever said. And so you just don't say it. If you have words coming into mind that are nasty, then you can keep them in your head. Go somewhere else. Go into another room and express them away from the person that you love, because you can't take it back. So no name calling was the first thing. And then the second was, and the most important thing is clear and effective communication. So, being willing to go there and more importantly, to listen what the other person is saying, and to get really clear on what they're saying before you even try to reply. How many times do you even, if you're in an argument, do you even get to finish your sentence before someone jumps in and cuts you off and comes in with their thing? And if you're really sitting back for the sake and the practice of listening, because everything that you say, I want to repeat back to you, here's what I just heard you say. If I get into the form of listening because I need to repeat that to you when we get done here, then it takes me out of feeling the sting of everything that you're saying, feeling, smacked by if you said something. Like, how you feel that sometimes you're just like, oh, every time someone says something. Well, if you're focused on, I want to remember what she said exactly, this, okay, then she said that, then she said that, and you're in that focus, then it takes the sting off the words when they're being said, and that helps you become a better listener right off the bat.
Interesting. You got to really care about the other person to do that, too. You have to be patient, and you have to care about the other person, hopefully love yourself, of course, and care about the other person as much. Or if you care about yourself more, you probably wouldn't pull that off. But those are things I think that just help us, and we're awakening in so many areas of our life. That stuff just transfers itself, work relationships, and once you start getting that stuff down, I think the benefits are far-reaching. So I want to talk about your books, and I definitely want to talk about the one with the angels. But what is the world's greatest business card? What is this? What is the world's greatest business card?
The world's greatest business card is a book. Because when and I'm talking to entrepreneurs, people who have a mission and a message they want to share with the world. They want to speak. They want to be on TV and radio, and they want to make a difference, globally or in the States or whatever that vision is. There's no greater business card you could have to grow your business as a coach, right? As a mentor, any of that, than a book that specifically states why you do what you do, what you do, why you do it, more importantly, the place that you do it from, right? Because gone are the days where we hand somebody says, what do you do? And we answer the question, hopefully in one sentence, instead of blathering on and on till their face, blood drains from their face, and they're like wanting to get away from you because you're throwing up all over them. But that's the first step. Quickly answer the question, what do you do? But when they are interested enough to say, do you have a card, it's important not to give them that teeny tiny piece of paper that nobody ever does business from a piece of paper anymore. When's the last time we actually got a call back from someone? We gave them that little 3 by 1.5 inch piece of paper. That paper cannot explain what you do, why you do it, how you do it, and the place that you do it from. It just can't do that. So when people say, do you have a business card? And you say, yes, I do, and then you hand them a book, now they're like, oh my God, this person is not a talker, they're a doer, because they actually have a book instead of someday are going to have a book. And they can afford to give it to me as their business card, so clearly they must be successful. And if you do it right, there's an endorsement right on the front cover from somebody famous who says, you are the one, right? So they're like, wow, they're impressed by that. And then maybe they go home and read it and then love you. Or if you give it to them correctly with an offer, like, hey, go home and read this book and then give me a call and I'll give you this. So it could be a free first coaching call if you want to be a coach, or something that has value, and you tell them the value that you just gave them. That's a $500 call, by the way. So just call me and let me know when you're ready, and we'll do that. So now you just gave them that call plus a book. So you must be successful. So they either go home, read it, and call you to get the free thing, or they throw it on the table, and every time they pass a book, because nobody ever throws away a book, they see the book and it says, call you and get the free thing, call you and get the free thing, call you and get the free thing. So you will hear from that person. And so that's why it's the world's greatest business card, because A, nobody's ever going to throw it away. They're going to be blown away that you have it. They're going to be blown away by who says you're awesome on the outside cover and maybe some on the inside. And then they're going to want to take you up on that offer. So when you leave them with that, instead of a teeny tiny piece of paper business card, it's not if you'll hear from them, it's when you'll hear from them.
Now tell us about the roadmap to book writing success.
Well, that's one of the things that that we created years ago to help authors get out of their head and onto paper what they want to write in a book. And so we really have two roadmaps. That one is the older one that helps people who do want to write a book to just get everything out on paper, and then it tells you ways to start writing and to keep writing so that you'll finish the book. And if you do that, then you'll have a great experience. If you're like most people in the world these days, they're too busy to write a book. They're just being of service to everybody else and not making the time and coming up with all the excuses not to write a book. And so we actually created a process called the You Speak It book process, where you don't have to write a single word. You just show up and let us guide you through speaking the book. And the new roadmap to success is the first call that we do in that process. So it's a different format, but it's the same result. We get clear exactly what the book will be from front to back on the call, and then we just proceed to get the content. So yeah.
Can you tell us? This is one I really highlighted as I was promoting today's show. What is the inspiration behind the book? We've been talking about books, the roadmap to book success. What is the inspiration behind the book, Walking with My Angels? What inspired you to pen that particular book?
Well, all the other books that I have done until now were books to be of service, right? Books to make an impact and be of service to the world. This book is actually my life purpose book. This is why I'm on the planet. This is what I am here to share, and it's clear from the very beginning when you read the introduction that that's my mission from here on out, is to introduce people to their, I'm going to call them angels, but those of you listening, you may call it intuition, inner guidance. You may call it God, Spirit, universe, Allah, Jehovah. Like, it doesn't care what you call it, as long as you call it. And so what that means is, we can agree that everything is energy, right? We're made up of energy. And so we come from that energy. And some people call it God, some people call it energy. Again, whatever you like to call it is perfect. Fill in the name you like, right? So we come from that source. That's where we came from. We're made in the image and likeness of it, and we're made up of it. And so just because we chose to move out of that form and come into a body does not mean that we're disconnected from it. We have direct connection to this thing. And so I'm here to teach people how to access that part of them that already knows the answer to every question, to do that in real time so that you get answers. And that's my journey and why I'm here and what the book ultimately is about.
Now this I have to ask. No, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. That's okay. We have that little delay, so go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, when you said we're all, I wanted you to finish your statement. You started to say something. We're all, okay.
I don't remember.
Okay. This I have to ask you. So the book, now it's shifted. You've gone from service to trying to help other people now just walk in, I guess, their purpose. How and when did the message from the book, for the book, Walking with My Angels, come to you? How did you get the message even about this book? Did it come through a dream? How did it come to you?
Right. Yeah, that's in the book. In my early 20s, I was working with an earthbound angel, and I mean a real earthbound angel, meaning an angel. There's a group of angels that are here on the earth that were etheric angels, and then they were put on the earth to work with certain people to keep those people on this planet to do the work that they're here to do. And in most of the cases, these people would not have made it to that time if they didn't get a little help, right? And so this angel was working with me, and that's really my favorite part of the book, is this angel was working with me, taking me from believing in nothing to believing in everything so that I can do the work that I do today. And I had to believe in everything in order to be able to do that. And so one of the ways that one of the things that he did to show me why I was here and my purpose was to facilitate an out-of-body experience. And so I raised out of my body and went out kind of over the city, over the woods, and then came down to this campfire, this huge fire, and around the fire were ancestors, were beings of light, were all kinds of spirits and beings that shared with me what I was here on the earth to do. And so they actually said that I would be writing a book called Walking with My Angels, so it's their title, not mine, and that in the book I would be sharing all of my interactions with spirits, with angels, all the times that I could have died and didn't, which, by the way, was 7 when I wrote the book and is 8 now. So 8 times I should have clearly left the planet and didn't. And so I was told that I would write this book in my early 20s, and so I always knew that, but also I was told that for my next steps all along the way in my life, I would remember things that were said at that particular meeting. And because when I came back into my body, I really could only remember what the first one said. And I asked my angel, why can I only remember what that one said? And he said, because, it's too much for you to wrap your mind around. And so as you go through life, you'll remember what that one said. And then you'll do that. That's your next step. And then when you complete that next step, you'll remember what that one said. And so my whole life has been a prompting of remembering things that were told to me and then me just stepping into that. So it was a long drought from early 20s to when they finally said, time to write the book. I mean, it was a long time of being in service, but every book that I wrote and every author that I helped write a book and everyone that we published and every time I spoke and every radio show and every TV show and everything that I did was all in service to this message so that when it came out, there would be an audience and people would be ready. And I think that's why it took so long. Because, back when this was told to me, if I even shared that with anybody in the 90s, they would have just got me a straitjacket and some medicine and threw me in a padded room, And so I get why it was by the time I came out with this, there's most people are open. They're like, wow, man, that's so cool. That's so interesting. Instead of, really? What are you, crazy?
Were you meditating? Like sometimes I've had like visions that came up out of nowhere. I was at like a sporting event or driving, and it just out of nowhere it'll pop up. Were you like meditating? Yeah. Were you at a retreat or something or did it just come up out of seemingly nowhere that you had that experience?
Well, I was literally working with an angel, and so he facilitated the process. He gave me something that he always had on his person and said, wear this tonight when you go to sleep. We're gonna journey together. And so it was a little screwdriver that he wore at work. He was a mechanic, and so I put that on my shirt and laid down and went to sleep. And as soon as I laid down and fell asleep, supposedly asleep, then I raised out of my body and was hovering over my body more awake than I am when I'm awake. Like I realized any second I can...
It was a person.
Yeah.
You were working with a person, like at work.
Yeah.
A person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, an angel that was in a body as a person. Yeah, but he was specifically one of the angels that go and they're assigned to certain people to save them from themselves, really, and keep them from dying before their predetermined expiration date so that they can do the work they're here to do on the planet. And at that time, I was drinking and drugging, and I was headed to, a grave pretty quickly if I kept doing what I was doing. But if I kept doing that and I died, then he said it would have a not so great effect on the planet, that I was here to do great things and that ultimately I would help to raise the vibration of the planet. No stress, no pressure. Somebody in their early 20s, you're saying, raise the vibration of the planet. So I was a little like, okay, whatever, dude. But through time, he did so many things to prove to me that he was who he said he was. He just showed me proof after proof till I finally believed, wow, this is an angel and he's here to help me. He's here to save me. He's here to guide me into what I'm here to do on the earth. And so all of this is in the book.
Did you,
it shares
people listen to this, it's even like sometimes you read stories in the Bible and you're like, wait a minute, did
Yeah.
Did he have a family? Did he have like a regular life as well? Did you meet any? Did he have other friends? Did he?
The only other life that I know of was his work. He lived by himself, because if you think about it, this person has to, if they're assigned to people, right? So this is what he goes through. He's assigned to somebody. He has to go move to that town. He has to find a job. He has to find a place. He has to finally, when he has everything in place, then go find the person that he's assigned to, then hang out, do something to get their attention, and enough to become friends with them to where that person finally invites them to hang out after work, and then because he came to my work, and then eventually I said, hey, do you want to hang out after work? And he said, sure. And then he had to start with inquiry questions like, hey, what do you believe in? What do you believe in when it comes to, psychics and all that? And then I shared at that point, not a lot. My belief system, right, was not a lot, and so he had to work from that slowly to get me to believe by showing me things. So one of the things I talked about, he did what's called a life review, and took a ring that I had on that my stepfather had died with it on, and put it in his hands, and told me my life story up until the point where my stepfather died with that ring on. And he told me everything. Your parents divorced when you were 2, and your dad left, and then you're raising yourself, and then your guardian angel came to you, and like everything. And there's no Google back then, so he does not know this, right? There's no way he could know this stuff. And that's how he started, just to get me to go, well, I guess this guy's psychic, right? And then he would do things like predict world events and tell me how my whole next day was going to go. And he did so many things that finally I believed in him. And so he had to get to that point. So then finally he could reveal why he was here and what he was here to do with me. And then that really started day one of training, right? So it's a long process. And that's what he does over and over again. So one of the things he said was he would take me from believing in nothing to believing in everything. 3 things he would do. Take me from believing in nothing to believing in everything so that I could make a difference on the planet. 2 would reveal my life purpose to me. And then 3 would save my life. And then once he saved my life, then I had to let him go, because he would then have to leave and go do all this for the next person.
Do you think everybody has an angel? And if they do, could we have an angel that shows up like a person? You think it's just a person, and when they finish their function, they're gone. They're out of your life. It could be your child. It could be a partner. Once they fulfill their function, they're gone. They're gone. But do you think everybody has an angel that?
Yeah, everybody has it. Everybody has at least one guardian angel. So that angel is there to do 2 things. They have 2 jobs. Love you unconditionally. That's job number 1. And the second one is get you to your predetermined expiration date. Like there's a time that you're supposed to be here on the planet, but there's so many moving parts now. There's like planes, trains, automobiles, gang fights, shootings, like there's so many ways we could go now that they're on high watch. And so they're just like loving us unconditionally and trying to keep us on the planet as long as we're supposed to be here. And so that's their job, but because we have free will, guardian angel can't do anything else unless you ask. And so that's why angel evocation, or I like to call it invitation. If you'd like to see more from your guardian angel, then you just got to tell them. So however that looks for you. Hey, guardian angel, thank you for keeping me alive up until now. I want you to know that I'm open to seeing you. I'm open to hearing you. I would love for you to show up in my life and with evidence and proof that it's you. Right? I'm totally interested in that. My eyes are open. I'm keeping an eye out now. Show me that you're there, and show me in ways that I will know that it's you. I'll absolutely know that it's you. That's an invitation. Now they're like, oh, thank God. I've just been loving you and keeping you alive, and now we get to play. Now I get to show up, right? And they'll do that. So we have those guardian angels, but then there's, like you said, there are people that show up in our lives that are here to help us get to other levels, and they may or may not even know that. But yeah, like you said, some people, when they have fulfilled their purpose, and they get to that point where they're supposed to leave the planet that they agreed on before they even got here, then they're gone. So that can help to explain why, they say only the good die young, right? Sometimes there's people that are young and they're just incredible people and they do so much good for everybody, and people say like, well, why would that person, not be spared? Why would they die when they were so young? And it's because they did everything they were agreed to do, and they did it in a short amount of time, and now they're on to life after life, which is, not death, only going from one room into the next room, right? And now they're doing great work there.
Now, did the angels? Did you have, when you were working on the book, Walking with My Angels, because it's in plural?
Yeah.
Is the one guy you were working with, is the first one who told you to get your screwdriver or something to go home, and then you started having like this out-of-body experience? But did this individual, or were there also other angels, did they give you specific guidance, like put this in chapter 1 and chapter 2, and they literally told you what to write? Is that how the process for writing Walking with My Angels came about?
Yeah, it was an amazing process because over the years, you know how kind of memory fades over time. And I mean, it had been 25 years, right, at least. And so I remembered some things that happened. I remembered metaphors. I remembered pieces of things and all of that. But when I sat down to write this book, because I said it's time, then I invited angels to, all of my angels, right, to work through me, to come in and assist. And so basically I just chronicled my whole life story, and especially when I got to that part, all the parts with angels, the most incredible thing happened in that I had complete and total recall. So while I was writing, it was like I could remember specific conversation, like then he said, then I said, then she said, then I said, then I said, then she said, then he said, like everything. And so I just wrote everything down, and the most beautiful part about that experience was then all of the things that happened with that earthbound angel, I got to relive again. And I got to feel again and experience again. And so my faith was reborn again, and my strength and belief was reborn again, because I got to experience it all again as if in real time, in full memory recall. So it was amazing.
So this angel person you met in person is no longer in your life, it sounds like, from listening to you. He's no longer physically there.
Yeah, like I can still communicate, but not in the physical, because like he had said, as soon as I save your life, you have to let me go, because then I'll be assigned to the next person, and then I have to do the same for that person. And so that was truly the hardest thing I ever had to do, because this person really became so many roles for me. Like, he took me to do things that I never got to do because I didn't have a father. He was the brother that I didn't have, right? He was all these roles, and angel to me, and a father figure, and all of that. And then all of a sudden I had to, let him go after he saved my life. And so that was a really hard thing to do. But I know that he's still doing the same thing, helping other people, making a difference in people's lives. I can't imagine how many people he's helped and served even since then. But I still talk to him. I still get evidence that he's still with me, even though not in the flesh, but still available for support if I need to reach out. And then in the book, there's another person that I worked with physically at my job, who took me on many journeys and was a very, very spiritual person, and we did so many incredible things that were out of this world together. And that person's name was Larry. So anybody who's read the book, this will excite you probably as much as me, is that while I was on tour, because I just completed the first leg of my tour to New York and then California and then Florida, but toward the end of that tour, I actually got a Facebook message from Larry Wright, who's another angel person that I worked with, right, in my early 20s, and had not really spoken to since then. And I got a Facebook message from a Larry Wright, and I said, "Is this the Larry Wright? The Larry Wright?" And that's all I said. And he said, "The Larry Wright who?" And then started typing in things that I had shared with my wife over the years and shared in the book, but things that only he could know, things that weren't necessarily in the book. And so I'm like, "Oh, let's get on the phone." And so we got on the phone, and I put him on the speakerphone, and my wife was just sitting there going, "Whoa," with like her hair standing up on her arms with chills because he was saying, "Hey, remember when?" And he was saying like all the things that I told her for the last 20 years that we've been together. "Remember when that happened?" Or "Remember when that happened?" And things that just weren't in the book, or things he couldn't have known. And he hasn't read the book. He didn't know that it was even out there. But so she was just like, "Oh my gosh," because it was like, wow, man, all those things that you said, he was saying the same exact thing. So it was incredible. So I've recently been in touch with him, and we've been connecting, and so that answered a question that I posed in the book about Larry, because I hadn't spoken to him since then. And there's a million Larry Wrights, so how could I find him on Facebook? There's only a million Larry Wrights to choose from, and he moves around.
Wow, yeah. I believe everything's connected, and if you can tap in, we have a guest coming up in June on Off the Shelf, talking to angels, and if you can tap in, because it's all connected. A book that she wrote, and then listening to you is like, wow. When somebody is able to do that, people who, if we don't, it's hard to believe something you've never experienced, but it doesn't mean it's not true. But my next question for you talked about your purpose, helping to raise people's vibration. So why is that important? And what is a vibration in layperson's terms? And why is it important to raise it? What is it, first of all, and why is it important to raise it?
That's a great question. Well, raise vibration means lift our consciousness. So some people consider consciousness to be mind. Some people think we're driven by subconscious. Some people believe that we're pure energy. So no matter what your belief is, it's if there are dark energies and there is light, right? So there's dark and there's light. Well, there's also low vibration and there's also high vibration. So people like Jesus were in a extremely high energy, a high vibration. They believed that all things are possible. And therefore, because of their belief that all things are possible and tapping into that, all things were possible to them. And so, like Jesus said over and over again, it happens as we believe. Pray believing that you'll have and you'll receive as you believe it's done unto you. Said it like a million ways, right? As you believe, it's done unto you. So if that is true, then it's important that what we believe is for us and not against us. That we believe is in service to others, that what we believe and how we act and the things that we say are to move us forward instead of backwards, if that makes sense. So for me, a lot of people, they have questions about their next steps and what they should do next. And they're in a world that says, you can't have what you want, right? If you have a job, you can only get paid $15 an hour. There's no room for abundance, right? There's no room for anything on top of the paycheck could come to them in any way. And sometimes money comes to us in ways that we could never dream of, right? So it's about opening up to possibilities. And then the reason that we would raise our vibration or our energy is to remember, first of all, remember that we're made up of that, and in that remembrance, we raise a little bit, right? The belief, and so that's why I invited to invite your guardian or your guardian angel to show you proof, right? They will show you baby steps first. And this speaks to earlier you said, seeing an angel in the flesh, right? That was part of your question that I forgot to address. Usually they will give you baby steps first. So you say, hey, I have a question, and you ask your guardian angel, and you say, I'm open to getting the answer, and then you go out to the car and you turn on the radio, and the next song you hear is the lyrics are the answer to the question, and you go, huh, I asked for that, and it happened. That's probably angel. Boom, subconscious mind believes a little bit, right? A little bit more. And then you go out into the world and you say, what's my next question? You keep asking that question over and over again. I really want to answer this question. I know if I'll get the answer to this question that it'll be angels, because I have not been able to get to this question in my own head. So I keep asking the question, and then you go to see a friend of yours, and the friend goes, I don't know why, but I'm supposed to tell you this. And then they tell you something, boom, it's the answer to the question, right? And you're like, oh, whoa, it's the answer to my question. So you start asking for evidence. They show you evidence in baby steps, and each of those little baby steps, your subconscious mind goes, angels, I believe. And as you get more and more proof and your subconscious mind starts to believe, now your subconscious mind opens up to all possibilities, right? And then you may hear a voice. Then you might hear voices, right? Audible voice where you say, hey, I have a question, and then you hear pss, 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 and you go, thank you. You get the answer, right? That's like the next step that you can work up to. And then eventually you may get to where you say, hey, so-and-so, whether it's somebody who passed over or an archangel or whoever, and you ask, show yourself to me, and then they do. But rarely does that happen where you go from, I don't know if I really believe this, I've never really seen anything, to asking an archangel to show up, and then they show up, right? Because that's like too much for your mind to make that jump, too much for your subconscious mind to accept. So the only time typically that people ask the first time for evidence and proof, and then they show up and materialize in front of you, right? Those are rare occasions, and on those occasions, they just need to get you to some purpose that you're here on earth, like really, really fast. Like it's timely, right? Like I gotta get you. Okay, I'm glad you asked. Let's go. Like it's rare that happens because they need to bring us inch by inch, step by step, to where we'll be able to believe. And so that's really how it happens. So why? Yeah. So why to raise our vibration? There's a million ways to say it. A Christian way to say it was to bring you closer to God. Right? That's why. For more metaphysical people, that are into metaphysics, then it would be raise your vibration so that you have direct access and can hear answers to questions that you have. Right? You can get clear and direct answers in real time to questions that you have. To somebody who doesn't believe in any of that, that just believes in energy. Well, raise your vibration means raise your energy to a place where you feel better, to a place where you can hear somebody say something negative and it doesn't affect you because you know that you're okay, that you never have been homeless and no one would let you be homeless, period. If you had the guts to tell somebody, hey, I'm going to be homeless, they would say, hey, here's my couch, right? So no matter how you look at it, to raise our vibration just means go to a higher place, go to a place where we feel good and then keep attracting more reasons to feel good.
Now, I have to ask you this. It just popped into my head for some reason. I don't know if it's because of myself or a listener. For me, I don't think that it is because I'm not in this situation, but it could be for a listener here on Off the Shelf. I always think that it's important to pay attention to the people around you as well. So if you are around people who are constantly putting you down, you're talking about raising vibrations, they're constantly putting you down, criticizing you, judging you, and even like domestic violence, I tell people get out of that. I don't know how you could keep your vibrations up and be in an environment where that is occurring every single day. When it comes to raising vibrations, is it important that we be around people who they're just not like almost dragging you down like when it comes to vibrations?
Yeah. The way it was put to me by some of my mentors, and one of them was Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul author. He said, "You are the 5 people that you hang out with the most. You are that person." So think about who are the 5 people that I hang out with the most, and get their faces or write their names, get their faces into your head, and then start thinking to yourself, who are they? Are they negative? Are they naysayers? Do they support me? Are they loving to me? Do they care for me? Do they care for themselves? Are they supportive of themselves? Really break down, like, what are the qualities of those 5 people? And as you do that, you'll start to see that all the qualities of those 5 people, you are yourself as well. And so if you're like, wow, man, I've been really negative this whole last month, and that's usually not like me. Who have I been hanging out with? And look, you're hanging out with negative people. I can guarantee you're hanging out with negative people, or they've been telling you negative things, and you've just been soaking that up, whether it's conscious or subconscious, you're soaking it up, and then it's in your cells, it's in your body, and you're just taking it on, and then you're just being that yourself. So you are the 5 people that you hang out with the most. So you want to really be aware of that. And then you are what you read, you are what you watch on TV. It just blows my mind that the number 1 shows in the world are killing shows, death shows, CSI, all that, all NCIS. There's a million of them. People I know, everybody watching them, and then we wonder why teenagers who are watching those shows are shooting up a school, are coming up with creative ways to kill people. It's like that's what they're watching every day. Kill, 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 all the time kill. And then we wonder why we have so much killing in the world, It's like that's what they're feeding into their subconscious mind, and even the most creative ways to kill people. It's just beyond me that we would watch those shows and think that it would do anything positive for us to watch those. But that's my judgment, right? And I have in the past had shows that I loved that were kind of like mystery shows, like you were talking about. Like our publishing company, we only publish books that make a difference. Like we wouldn't publish a murder or mystery, because that's just not what we do. We want to make sure that you feel better when you put down a book that we published than when you picked it up, no matter what. Right? You're like, that fed my soul. That felt so good inside of me. So that's just what we choose to publish. And then if somebody has something about war or something else, then I have other people who are friends who will publish that, and so I just refer them over there. So it's like we want our publications to be a vibration for our message and who we are, which is
so
positive.
You cannot. This wasn't a question I was going to ask you, but we come down to about 6-7 minutes left in the show. For your book publishing company, are you taking on new authors for our off-the-shelf listeners? And if so, how would they get in contact with you? And specifically, what type of books? So, like, would you take on a book on finances, how to get your finances together, relationships, how to improve your marriage? What type of books do you take on, and how would any off-the-shelf listeners interested in working with you contact you?
Yeah, well, that's why I sent you to Leon Smith Publishing, and then if you go, our company started many, many years ago as Baby Pie Publishing, so that's like the main company. So it's BABYPIE Publishing, Baby Pie. And if you go to Amazon and you type in Baby Pie Publishing, you'll just see title after title after title after title, page after page after page of books that we published. And they are, like you said, there's some real estate, there's finance, there's relationship stuff, there's some novels, right? There are a lot of different types of books that we published, but again, all of them have a happy ending, right, or a positive message. And but yeah, we work with people from either from the beginning or from the book, from where you have a manuscript and it's ready for editing. We don't work with someone who's, it's already edited, it's all layout, covers done. That's not a match for us, because we have choices that we make. As 20 years as publishers in the business, we have choices that we make so that all of our books look and feel the same. So if it's that far ahead, we wouldn't be a match. But if you're from the beginning, or this book is ready for editing, like from that point on, then we can look at the manuscript. Then we could, through the editing process, you could see what it's like to work with our team. We could see what the book's about, what it's like to work with you, and we get to know each other. And then when we both feel like it's a match, then we have a publishing conversation. That's the way that we do it.
And you said 20 years? You've been in this 20 years. So do you follow a process? You sort of said the steps for yourself in writing books. Do you do outline, character sketches? When you sit down and write, how do you actually put a book together?
Yeah, that's a long question. Well, the roadmap to success is what I used when I wrote a book myself. And so that, I think you can type in, Keith Leon roadmap somewhere out there. It's out there where you can find the PDF or get it on the exact roadmap. But yeah, just with our You Speak It process, which is most of the people that we work with these days seem to be entrepreneurs and people that don't have time to write a book, and so we just lead you through the process. You have to do nothing except for show up, because you already know the stuff. It's our job to get it out of you with ease and grace. And so you just show up, you already know this stuff, and we just get you to speak it. So that's the way we work with that. But the way I work is I just, the quick way to say it was start with a blank page, say, what do I want to talk about in this book? I throw everything out on the page until I'm done right in that moment, right? Until I'm done with, I think that's it. That's my book. And from that point on, I stop and don't come in with anything else. That's the book. Anything after that is called the next book. And then I take everything that I wrote and say, okay, so which of these chapter titles, basically that's what I just came up with, right? I say, which one wants to go first? And whichever title jumps out at me first, I put a 1 next to it. Okay, then what will I say next? What wants to go next? Whatever jumps out, I put a 2 next to that. So I do that until I have a number next to all of them, and then I put them all in order on another sheet and call it the roadmap to success. And then I start writing the first chapter that feels the easiest to me, like I could write that chapter in my sleep, because you don't have to write in chronological order. You can write in any order, right? So there's only kind of two rules, because I'm not a big rules guy, but once you do that process, you're always writing the chapter that feels the easiest, and you complete a chapter before you move on to the next. If you follow that format, then you can write in whatever order, and you'll always be writing what you feel like you're ready to write, right, instead of in chronological order. Because if you think about it, if the first chapter that you had to write was something really heavy and dark and you didn't want to look at it, you would just go, no, and push it away and stop writing. And that's why you can't write in chronological order, right? So there's that. And before we run out of time, I just want to share with everybody that to get the Angel book, you go to walkingwithmyangelsbook.com. So walkingwithmyangelsbook.com, and from there it will you can click off and go to Amazon and get the book however you like. But the reason you go to walkingwithmyangelsbook.com is because you come back and put in the order number for the book, and you get $1,600 worth of cool free stuff from me and many famous people that you'll know that will support you in your journey as you read the book. So I didn't want you to just get the book. I wanted you to get tools and things that would help you as you read the book. So Walking with My Angels book, go there, click off, get the book on Amazon, come back, put the order number in, you get $1,600 worth of free cool stuff.
Well, that is definitely a plus. I had so many more questions I wanted to ask you, but we are out of time. And I mean, I had so many more questions that we didn't even get to touch on. So we want to thank Keith Leon for being here with us this morning. And do please go to Walking with My Angels book. It's spelled exactly the way it sounds, walkingwithmyangelsbook.com. You said you can order the book at Amazon and then come back and put it in, get the free gifts that he's given out. But he's he's known as the book guy, Walking with My Angels, Who Do You Think You Are? Discover the Purpose of Your Life, the World's Greatest Business Card, which we talked about. You Make a Difference, Make a Book, Move a Book, Book Sale, the 7 Steps to Successful Relationships, and so many other things I wanted to discuss with Keith that we didn't get to. But he's at leonsmithpublishing.com if you're interested. and working with his book publishing company and the book we really dived into the most today, walkingwithmyangelsbook.com. I encourage you to get a copy and support Keith Leon. We want to thank Keith for being here with us this morning. If you came in midstream, and I know a lot of people come in the show, it's a Saturday morning, you come in midstream, you're like, oh, my God, I missed so much of the show. Once it finishes streaming, you can go back and listen to it in its entirety in the archives and share it with whoever you think might benefit or enjoy the show today. I want to thank those, if it's your first time tuning in to Off the Shelf, encourage you to come back next Saturday and just put it on your calendar. Every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you're going to catch Off the Shelf. And to our loyal listeners, so many of you who have been with us for 15 years, I thank you, thank you, thank you. As I always tell you, you are incredible. You are amazing. You are phenomenal. Go out and create a fabulous day for yourself. Keith, I'll shoot you an email when the show finishes streaming. Thank you, and bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.